I'm making a stand for a 16th century cannon, and I figured, let's do it old school. So I had a piece of ash that was about the right size. Got to get that knot off of it. I've debarked it. I wish I had a shave horse, but this will do. Okay, so after about an hour's work, I flattened one side with a hatchet and a scrub plane, and then ran it through my big bandsaw, and got something approximating a square. So I'm going to cut this down to a octagon, except for the bottom about a foot I'm going to leave as a square. First thing I need to do is clean off, square the ends, and then I did a little CAD work just to figure out the math. And for a 4-inch board, I need just about 1.6 and a fraction to the edge. That's here. To each face, those are the similar, and this should be about 1.65 between these two lines, which is what I got. So I set up a gauge for that, and once I clean these ends off and mark where the this is going to stop, I'm going to mark that down, and we'll figure out exactly how I'm going to do this. Probably a Japanese saw rasp. If you guys haven't seen a Japanese saw rasp yet, yeah, you're in for a treat. Learned about these from Crimson Guitars, making guitar necks. Alright, got my ends cut square, and have my my cut marks gauged in here. So basically I'm connecting, that line to that line across here to make an octagon. And this is a cannon mount. This is not a piece of fine furniture. The only reason I'm doing this is for aesthetics and to lightweight it a little bit. So the fact that, particularly this face, these markings are, actually I marked them from both sides, and they came out surprisingly close. The face of the gauge went down far enough, even on this edge, to give me a pretty good mark. And of course, a lot of the work's done for me here. You can see the gauge line, down here is like right here, but on the top, the gauge line is like right on the edge of that. So that's why I picked that edge to make this end to make the octagon. There's a little bit of corners down here on the base, but as I said, this is almost purely aesthetic. Not really, necessary for it to be any particular size. It's not mating to any other thing on the top. Here's a video of the cannon all painted up. I don't know if you can tell, but there's like what looks like brush strokes in here. Yeah, they're fake. I spray painted it and then hit it with a disposable brush, just to, sec decoration, to give it the illusion that it was hand painted. These mugs go in that breech, and then the wedge that's sitting there, it's just sitting there because it's paint's drying. You see the Baltimore Knife logo there. Those mugs go in there. You load the powder into these. They each have a touch hole. That one's here. This one's over here. And powder inside of a foil pouch. And put it in there and pierce it and put some primer powder on top and make her go boom. So we're preparing to go for 2 weeks at the Penzic War medieval reenactment up in northwestern Pennsylvania. And here's a quick look at one of the woodworking projects I've been doing. This old box, the box itself I've had forever. I don't know what it originally was, but it's old and pretty crunchy. I stuck the partitions in there, and I made that lid out of just a piece of shelf board, really. The swab, the stick for the swab is kind of cool. This was just cut down from a 2x2, and I made it into an octagon. It's pretty even, and I'm pretty happy with it. It's just got an oil finish on it. This is the real treat. The ash boards on the bottom came from Sawyer that I had come out and mill a bunch of wood, the rough cut wood that I've used on the shop. We did cut a little bit of ash with it, so they're half lapped inside and screwed in. But then the post was just a tree log a week ago, and I faced one side of it with a hatchet after cleaning it with a draw knife, faced one side with a hatchet, squared it with my bandsaw, and then made the octagon by hand. So that came out pretty even. I'm really pretty happy with it. This is a swivel gun. It's a breech loading gun. It's not a muzzle loader. So these mugs, they call them mugs, go in. You load the powder into these. This then goes, this is hard to do with one hand, and that rebalances the gun. Here's your touch hole. So you fill this with gunpowder that's in a foil packet. You then take my little accessories box. You take this prick, and when you're ready to fire the gun, you pierce into that packet and make sure that it's all, you got a nice little bit of a pocket in your big part of your gunpowder in there. And then you take your priming powder, this is empty, and prime down that hole, and we were able to engrave the name of the gun, Skylark, on there. And oh, that's another piece of woodworking I did. I'll talk about that in a second. So you take the wedge that we have here, logo here for Baltimore Knife and Sword. This really belongs to my brother Kerry. I'm its current custodian. This goes in the back like that. You take your little hammer and make sure he's good and tight. All right, so that's how you basically load that. This was a pretty good sized stick of Purple Heart that I had, maybe 1.25 inches in diameter, and so this is the right, the butt end of this is the right diameter to go inside that mug in order to snug up all your powder packet. And he's got an oak, and then an oak wedge, and then a cross-peened Purple Heart wedge. So this is nice and tight, and cute little hammer. That came out really good. So I did that piece of woodworking. That was all done with, basically done with a spoke shave. So I'm pretty happy with that. I did cut the top here with curved file, and to match the to give us a good shoulder for that hammer to mount on. So that came out really nice. So there's one of my current woodworking projects. I didn't really film any of it just because I was in such a rush to get it done. But painted the gun, and then and actually taped off the silver rings. Normally they would all be painted, but I kind of like the pinstripe look here. So they've actually got a clear lacquer sprayed on them to keep them from rusting. So it's we're not shooting projectiles. We're just using it for signal cannons. At the war, you'll see some more of that from the Penzic War next week and the week after. All right, thanks.